Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming today.
I'm not quite official enough to stand at the podium, so I'll stand beside it. It's always weird to hear your bio, and the older you get, the longer it gets, so then you have to start shortening things and deciding what to remove. We have known each other 20 years. The Leadership Clay program in Clay County is in its 21st year. That's the class that's starting now. It's really surreal to think about all the different things that we've done over the years. And every time that we start to do something new or we start to have a new venture, which this is not a new venture for me, it's a different version of what I've been doing. We always have to think about what we're going to do, how we're going to promote it, and where we're going to go. One thing I want to do when we're done or when we take a break, I'm not sure where we're going to do it, is I would like this small enough group, I'd like everybody to introduce themselves, but I don't want it to be a traditional networking event introduction where nobody's paying attention. You stand up, you give your 30-second elevator pitch, and nobody does that. So I want to do things with purpose, and I'm going to spend some time today talking about things with purpose because the title of this class and this summit is Innovate, Integrate, and Inspire. So when we do the introductions, which won't be at the beginning, it won't be at the end, we'll throw them in the middle, pay attention to the people that are talking because this is an opportunity for you to get to know somebody or to connect with somebody that you may or may not ever be able to connect with again, or you don't have time to get to on the other side of the room. So jot down their name, jot down their company. In today's world, through connections, we can find just about anybody. Thank you guys, everybody that's come in here today. I know a lot of you, some of you guys I don't. As if you guys do not know me, my picture's pretty much everywhere. It's been all over the place. If you don't follow me on social media, I do post regularly, daily, both lifestyle and business. And that also integrates here as well into what we're going to talk about. I'm going to make you 3 promises today. Actually, I'm going to make you a gift, I'm going to make you a threat, and then I'm going to make you a promise. So that's the point of this seminar. Some of you guys have been students, coaches of mine. You've been through my programs, reviewed them, what have you. The one thing that I've never really talked about in years, and I started in the Chamber of Commerce as a copier salesman, just to put that in perspective. Years and years ago, before I was an independent entrepreneur, when I joined the Chamber, I was selling copiers and did very well in Clay County, and even though we were a sleepy bedroom community at that time. But any of my programs, I always stayed away from sales because I thought that that particular market was super, super saturated. If you go look for any kind of sales training, you're going to get 30 DM messages, you're going to get phone calls, there's books out there, everything. However, at the end of the last class, Scott was a member of this particular mastermind class the last time, the discussion came up that there was no sales training in there and that my unique style would lend itself real well to sales training. So first thing first, if you have something to write with, you're going to want to write this down. I'm going to give you the freebie on the front side. So if you decide I'm boring and I suck, walk out. That's fine. No big deal. You still get to take away what's free. I want you to write down 3 numbers. I want you to write down 12. I want you to write down 8. And I want you to write down 4. I'm not going to make you do math, so don't worry about that. If you have 12 appointments a week, conversations with purpose. This used to be face-to-face. That's still the most effective way. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it has to be a conversation with purpose. I'm not talking about waking up and shaking somebody's hand and then walking away. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a specific appointment to talk about business or whatever it is that you are wanting to do with that person. 8 of which are with brand new people that you've never had this discussion with before. And 4 of which are some sort of follow-up. This could be a close, this could be a training, this could be whatever. If you consistently engage, come on in, Eddie. If you consistently engage in this minimum activity for more than 6 months, at least 6 months, you will not fail. Your business will grow almost exponentially. The thing is, 12 45-minute conversations over the course of a regular work week is incredibly easy time-wise, and it's incredibly hard when you first start doing it because you're not used to it. That is the exact path and process that I used when I was selling copiers, when I was selling staffing, when I was affiliated with Idea Staffing, and every business that I built out of the chamber, that's the exact formula blueprint that I've used. You can double that And here's the secret. If you have 21 to 24 appointments in a week, it 5 times the way it works. It does not just double the way it works. 2 reasons. One, you're talking to a whole lot more people. So you get really, really good at being specific, focused, and to the point with your pitch. Number 2, the excitement that you have comes across in your meetings, and people want to do business with you. Anybody ever hear, hey, we're busy, I'm busy, how you doing? Oh, I'm busy. I mean, that seems to be the number one response. So when you hear that, do you really believe it?
Not always.
No. I mean, but when people really are busy, they're the ones not telling you they're busy. They're the ones saying, hey, we're getting it done. I'm working on a couple of projects. I'm really excited. But you can tell that they're busy because just trying to set an appointment with them is bounce back and forth. Like if you want to get an appointment with me, which anybody in this room can have the link because you showed up here today, you're going to get a link to my calendar so we don't have to bounce back and forth because I'm awful hard to get a hold of. There's other people in here that use different calendar setting services and what have you. So whenever you're busy, it comes across. And people want to do business with people that are busy, not people that say they're busy. So there's your takeaway. That's the freebie today. If you get nothing else out of today, take that away. Eddie, I gave that to you earlier. I'll tell it to you. I'll tell it to you after a while. If you missed it, if you want clarification on that, please ask me at the end. We've set aside the entire second half of this for either one-on-ones or questions or clarification. You can meet me at Crunch at 5 in the morning, and if you can keep up with me while we're lifting, then you can have whatever information you want. So, innovate, integrate, and inspire. So, I made you a promise I was going to give you something for free, and I was going to threaten you. I'm not threatening you. I'm just going to point out something that you may or may not be aware of in the way that I'm going to explain it. If you guys are corporate in here, you're familiar with what I'm talking about, but from a different perspective. If you guys are entrepreneurs, which a lot of you guys are entrepreneurs, independent, or outside sales reps, you know what I'm about to talk about, but you may not understand the true implications of what's happening. The market is shifting. We've all known that the market is shifting. That thing right there, and I'm pointing at my phone, is a supercomputer that sits in our pocket. It contains the world's knowledge of mankind up to today. You can find it and almost all of it for free. It's more and more being controlled by what we call AI, which is actually EI, but it's a totally different thing. AI is the new search engine. It is the new Google. And more often than not, as we grow and as we continue to expand our businesses, we're interacting more and more with AI, with bots, whatever you want to call them. And half the time you don't even know. They're good at this point. I have ChatGPT trained so well that I can write something, I can have ChatGPT write it, and she can't tell the difference of whether I wrote it or not. And she's the foremost expert in anything I've written because she reads it all. The only way to tell if I've written it or ChatGPT wrote it is ChatGPT puts emojis in it. And I don't write with emojis. That's it. But the communication level that the AI is evolving exponentially is terrifying. And here's the other thing. We are also more isolated than we've ever been before because of the technology. We're more connected. We can connect to anybody instantly on the phone, on social media, with a text message, whatever. Ed Milet talks about this, that we shouldn't be structuring our time based on what we did thousands of years ago living in a cave, because everything is instant now. We should be getting more done. But what's happening is we're living in an echo chamber because we're progressively being more and more controlled by the algorithms. So here's my prediction and here's my threat. The threat is that if you don't get on top of this, whether you use it or whether you just understand it, you're already behind if you haven't started. Because this is happening, whether we like it or not. This is what's coming next. It's just the same as when Google unified the search engines, and not everybody in here is old enough to remember that, but there used to be more than just Google out there. This is even bigger than that. But here's my prediction. For the next 10 years, and it's probably 5, the human connection is going to be more powerful in sales and business development than anything else on your plate. You master the art of being able to talk to people and being able to make them heard. And that's the tricky one, because we don't really know how to talk to people anymore unless it's in a 5-second text message or video. You will have no obstacle. Dana White talks about this in an interview. He says, if you can master the ability to talk to people and you just go out there and outwork them, you are savage. It doesn't matter how old you are. So the threat is that this is coming, and we are all obsolete as of right now. Whether we like it or not, it's just the truth. We don't have to stay that way, but we do have to be aware of what's going on. If we choose to use it or not, that's fine. But we have to be able to penetrate that barrier and get into real communication with real people. The trick is that we have to use these tools to do it. Now, the great news is, anybody in here, and a show of hands real quick, anybody in here in outside sales currently or been in the past?
I sell the outside.
Oh, that works. Well, you know what? That's impressive, because 3 or 4 years ago, they made us afraid of air. So I want to talk to you. If you've ever been in outside sales, what's the number one biggest challenge to sales in general? Talking to people, talking to the right people, having good, productive leads. One of the talks that I gave, and as a matter of fact, I gave it yesterday, where I talk about the 3 most powerful things that we can do. The second one is generate your own leads. Anybody that can generate their own leads and actually talk to people will never go hungry. But the challenge is now, we used to have gatekeepers. Now, you old school folks in here, secretaries, receptionists, people literally trained to say no to the appointment. And Tracy does that for me now. A lot of people can't get to me because they don't have a purpose to talk to me. So it used to be we had to overcome gatekeepers. Now we have to overcome artificial gatekeepers. We have to go through bots. We have to talk to people that have nothing to do with it. There's a lot of people in our way that can say no, a lot of machines that can say no, and very few people that can say yes. And as a result, because we are so siloed in these echo chambers that we call social media and our telephone, because I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but as soon as you look something up, that's all the ads that show up across Google, Facebook, anything. You start getting articles that are disguised or advertisements disguised as articles. Man, your phone makes you the smartest, most brilliant person in the world, because there's all these people out here that agree with you whether you're right or not. That's scary. That's terrifying in and of itself. That's a whole different discussion. But what that does is it really helps us become more isolated from everybody on a day-to-day basis, because we walk into a conversation believing that we're right, instead of walking into a conversation believing that we are open to our opinion, we have our opinion, you have your opinion, and actually having true communication. One of the biggest challenges to communication is the illusion that it occurred. Ever been talking to somebody and they had no idea what you were talking about at the end of the conversation? Or worse, and I'm not kind of talking about your spouses, because we do that all the time, but, or worse, they're talking to you and you're like, okay, great, I wasn't listening at all. Can you repeat everything you just said, please? So engaging in communication is a skill, and it's one that's very, very quickly being lost, especially on the younger generation. And people from my generation and even older, we're not teaching those integration skills right now to the younger generation. All we're doing is blaming the younger generation for being isolated and being rude and not talking and just burying their face in their computer. This is what we've taught them. This is what they know, and this is how they do business. But as they grow, they are also becoming isolated, and a lot of them don't even know it because it's happening right in front of their faces. So we have to make sure that we're mindful of communicating with people, learning the skills to communicate with people, and learning how to develop our business. Now, what does this have to do with sales or with a promise or this or that? Well, all of these are learnable, and the difference between today and 20 years ago and 10 years from now is that because of social media, if you transition your mindset from this is something that you use to entertain yourself to this is a tool that you use to grow, and whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, I use them all as an outbound outreach tool. People put online what they like, what their family is, what they're doing. It's very easy to do a little bit of research and have a personal connection with somebody that they are actively engaged in. You can use social media to generate leads even faster than networking groups if you know how to do it, if you're looking at it with a purpose and with a focus intent. LinkedIn is the most obvious. But then again, if you go look for articles about LinkedIn, some people will say, oh, it's overrun with sales reps. It's a cesspool of information. It's this, it's that. And you can go find those exact same articles, sometimes word for word, substituted with Instagram or Facebook, because those are generated articles designed to make you feel better about what you are or are not doing. So the promise I have is that if you will listen today and take away some of these skills, whether or not you integrate with me outside of here, I have free programs, I have paid programs, I have singular coaching programs, and I have training programs for corporations, for larger, that help you with a mindset. Because more than ever, what's going to happen is because of the bots and the AI, sales scripts don't really work anymore. I never really thought they worked in the first place. I don't know about you guys, but if you were ever given it, if you ever worked in a place, how many of you worked in a place where the boss had the sales script? If you didn't stick to the script, you got in trouble, whether you were selling or not? Man, my problem with that was nobody on the other end of the phone ever knew their line. So I was like, how am I supposed to stick to the sales script? So what I believe is that you learn to communicate with people. You learn to truly make people feel heard. You can do business with those people. But the piece that's missing from that is mindset. And there's a lot of overused terms in the industry today. Coaching, mentoring, mindset coach, lifestyle coach. Everybody's a coach because the cost of entry is very, very low. But the productivity or the people with meat on the table, so to speak, is very rare. You come into an interaction with somebody, you have a team that you want to build your company and build your business. You have to hire the right person. That's the first step. But number two, you can't just teach them a script. You can't just give them a list of product features anymore and send them out there to go and sell. AI will do that for you, and with some success. You just put that out there. People are looking for it. They'll send you orders. You're done. There's whole industries based around that right now. But you want to do business with somebody now and in the future, and you want your team to do something. What you have to do is you have to teach these folks how to understand your vision for the company. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're one-on-one, you have to have a very specific vision for your company. You can find a way to integrate that into your team. Then everything that comes out of their mouth, no matter what the situation, will always be directed towards your ultimate end goal and your sense of purpose. You will no longer be selling at people. You will be working with people. And you won't be selling to prospects that are not qualified, because if your mindset's in the right spot, if your head's in the right spot, if you're thinking moving forward, this is where we're going, this is the company goal, you're not going to talk to anybody. Anybody in here seen Wolf of Wall Street? For in sales, we've all seen Wolf of Wall Street. And you can't help it. Jordan Belfort, he's still everywhere. I like what he teaches. He annoys the crap out of me. But this famous scene from that is, sell me this pen. Everybody know that reference, even if you've never seen the show? You know the question that's missing in most of them? I've only seen it in 2 of them. Anybody? The first question you should ask them is, how long you been in the market for a pen? Because if they're not in the market for a pen, you don't waste your time. So again, it's mindset. It's not, I just gave you something directly to do. Sell me this pen. Well, if you're not looking to buy a pen, you're just, okay, well, I'll just talk to somebody else then. It doesn't matter. But that's a decision you make if you have the mindset of what you're going to do instead of just doing what you're told to do. So how do you do that? How do you integrate that in your personal life as an entrepreneur, or how do you integrate that into your teams? Number one, you have to put the right people in place. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're a solo person, congratulations, you are already selected. You are the right person. Number two, have a specific way to look for people that are in alignment with your values. They may not share the company's vision when they're first hired, but you can see how they act, how they think, what they do. I'm going to use a very personal example right now. One of my sons, and I have 5, is struggling to get a job. I just don't understand. He doesn't interview well, but he leads with that. He tells people, nice guy, big troglodyte looking dude, but he's a nice guy. He tells people doesn't interview well, so that usually eliminates that problem, but they just won't hire him. They won't hire him. We discovered a couple days ago, his social media is a mess. Nobody will hire him. I don't blame them. I wouldn't hire him. His mindset is just all over the place. The first call was, look, dude, go at least hide all of this. I mean, you need to stop with it. I'm worried about the way you think, but go hide all of this. So how do you find out if somebody's in alignment with you? Well, you can interview them, and you should. Do we really need a 4, or do you learn more on the 4th or 5th interview than you do on the first 2 or 3? Or is it just a corporate formality that it has to be that way because somebody here decided they wanted to be involved or what have you? You take them out to dinner. That's one good way to figure out, because then you see how they treat people that wait on them. You see how they eat. You see what their manners are. You see how polite they are under normal conversation. That gives you a good idea. I used to say, and this is true, she can verify this. When I was in the dating world years and years ago, I'd take first date to go eat chicken wings. You find out if it's a girl you like or not. She pulls out a fork to eat chicken wings. Yeah, we're not going to go on another date. Thanks. We'll see y'all later. So there's ways to identify but you have to put some thought into this. This also applies to clients. Do you want to I'll ask you, do you want to do business with everybody that calls you and talks to you? No, why not? It's money. Pardon? Scott, very blunt. Some people suck. Some clients are harder than others. Some clients you just don't want to be affiliated with. And the reverse is also true. Some clients you just want to be affiliated with. And the thing is, your purpose will transcend anything that you're doing for that client. And Greg, if you don't mind, I'm going to use us as an example here. I showed up at Greg's house to do some very minor work for one of my companies and knew immediately, he's like, I really want to get to know this guy. I knew nothing about him other than it was just an intro. Say, hey, he's selling a house. He needs some work done. That was how many years ago? It was several years ago, and we since became friends after that, and we've done a lot of work together since then and continue to work together on this level, and I showed up as a handyman at his house. So your purpose, when it's clearly defined in your head, will transcend whatever it is you're doing. And you find people that are in alignment with you, it's much easier to sell them because you're not only going to do business with them now, but you promise, you deliver, you operate with integrity. You own your mistakes if you make them, because shockingly enough, everybody in here will make a mistake. Try to just deal with it. You move with integrity, then all of a sudden you've made that sale once, and you don't have to bid that account again. You don't have to make that sale again, because now that you're the person that they do business with for that. And if you do anything else, and here's where my history with the chamber ties in. I've built several different businesses out of the chamber. And when I say I'm including her because we've done everything together. But I have customers that were a part of the first business, that were copier customers 25 plus years ago, that we continued to work with over the years. And no matter what business we were doing, because what is it? People, you hear the cliche, people do business with people. So if you can take that mindset and transfer that to your team, now people are doing business with people. You've identified players on your team that are where they want to be, or that are where you want to be, and they want to be where you want them to be. Now you have not a bunch of robots running around just doing what they're told. Now you have a lot of people out there building a living vision and growing together. Nothing is more powerful than that. If you're doing this on your own and you're a solopreneur, which I don't really like that term, but it applies in different aspects, well, what do? Now you can do the same thing, but you do it with the people around you. You do it with your vendors. You do it with your suppliers. You do it with your clients. You do it with referrals. You're still building a team even if you're not putting them on payroll, because you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want you to make this happen. In one of my companies yesterday, which is Investor Maintenance Services, I had a job go horrifically wrong, like missed deadlines, fined for inspections. It was bad. And it was 100% my fault. Not because I didn't show up, not because I was supposed to be doing the work, but because I own the company. My crew didn't do what they were supposed to do. I should have known that before the fire marshal showed up for inspection. but I didn't. I failed myself. Again, owning your responsibility. That brings me to this point. What do you do if you've hired the wrong person? Get rid of them. Gary Vaynerchuk says, hire fast, fire faster. Hormozy says pretty much the same thing. It's like, if you've made a mistake, don't spend more time making it. Cut your losses and move on. Not everybody's the right fit for where you need to be. But what does all of this have to do with sales? Every single thing that I've just talked about now eliminates pressure. It frees up mental space. It allows you to focus on growth. And I could spend time going into with each of you guys, especially you entrepreneurs who work on one-on-one or just maybe have your wife or your spouse doing your books in the background and what have you, about where you spend your time. But that's not what I'm going to do here today, because just understand, you need to find a way to focus on only things that drive your business forward, because there's a huge difference between being busy and being productive. That's a one-on-one talk. And anybody in here ever dealt with consultants? Were you super excited when they showed up? No, I wasn't. Somebody else is going to tell me what to do. Can I just get out in the field and go sell? What are we doing? Most of the time, because a consultant shows up with a solution and they're going to try and ram your problem into their solution. They already have a system set up. I really, truly believe the only way you can alter a system is if you understand that system and see where it's broken. And this is one of the things that I'm very good at. I don't know why. I don't know how I figured it out. I can walk into an organization and start identifying the systems and see where things are broken very quickly. Not everybody can do that. I don't know why I can do that. I have no formal training in that. But if you just show up with, okay, I need to talk to your sales reps, and I'm going to teach them how to sell, and we're going to increase the bottom line by 10%. Well, how long is it going to take? I'm going to train them for a week. I don't know. How long do consultants typically work now? A week or two? That's what ours always seem to be, 3 or 4 days. And sometimes they made us go on the weekends, which really stunk. Took away time from the kids. But it would take their top level producers who aren't paying attention anyway, because they're trying to keep their deals going. They're the ones that should be out in the field just producing, because what they're doing is already working. And instead of speaking with them to find out what they're doing that's working, they're making them pay the price and carry the lower level producers. Not an effective solution. Bring in a consultant, try and do it. They just try and level the playing field with everybody. The high level producers continue to produce. The low level producers maybe can do a little bit better now, but they won't do it consistently because you didn't alter their mindset. You just gave them a couple different tools to use if they listened at all. It often ends up being just an incredible waste of time. In order to train your organization, you come in, if you're an outside consultant, you want to come in, you want to talk to your organization, and you want to do this yourself. You can self-audit your own organization. You don't need a consultant to do it. But you want to come in, you want to look at what you're doing, what's working and what's not working, and do more of what's working. That sounds incredibly simple, but that's it, especially from a sales perspective. Out of 80% of your sales, 20% of them are the most profitable. Do more of that. But if you never take the time to sit back and look, I'll say, okay, here's 100% of my sales. I made most of my money on these 3 jobs. Well, I'm going to go get more jobs like this. That's a very simple way to audit yourself. It's exactly what a consultant should do, and is not often what a consultant does do. And that brings me to my very last point on this particular section is most people wait until it's too late to reach out for help. You can learn from other people's mistakes. You can leverage other people's experience just by simply listening to them, whether you hire a coach, whether you look for a mentor. I don't know if you can hire a mentor. I don't know. Those two seem exclusive. A mentor to me always seemed like somebody you worked with that gave mutual value. Coach was somebody that just got in your face and told you the crap you didn't want to hear, but you already knew, and made you accountable. Mentors make you accountable too, but at the same time, that's the difference in my head, whether that's the correct definition or not. But most people wait until it's too long. I've got a friend that I met through the podcast, Dr. Oris Komarski. He's a retired periodontal surgeon who is now, he calls himself this, so I'm not being rude, he calls himself a men's boomer coach. That's what he does. He teaches boomers how to continue to have a fun lifestyle now that they've retired. That's his whole gig. He left being a surgeon to do that. He's the one that brought this to my attention. We were talking the other day, and he said, the problem is I'm dealing with guys in their 60s and 70s that could have been living the life that I'm teaching them to live if they'd have reached out in their 30s. And then they'd have 30, 40 years of it instead of 10. Because we're all so stubborn. This applies to guys. I can't think as a lady, so I'm not purposely excluding you, but I'm assuming there's some stubborn ladies out there too. We think we know all the answers and can figure it out and just power through. I got this. So I'm going to use an example that will drive this home. And I'm going to tie it back into what I said at the beginning, the 12, 8, and 4. Information is free, implementation for a fee. I could hand you, I have some in my truck, I didn't bring them in. I could hand you a set of blueprints on a house, how to build a house. I could have all of the materials and supplies that you need that are in that blueprint delivered to the job site, along with every tool that you would need to be able to build that house. How many in here could build a house that's not in the construction industry? You might get somewhere, but the first thing you got to know is how to read plans. That's important because it's Sanskrit if you've never read a bunch of plans. Some of us grew up in that industry, so we take it for granted. When I was writing Any Idiot with a Hammer, which is free, by the way, if you guys want a copy of that, I'll send it to you. It's a conflating silly handyman stories or nightmares with how to set goals. My editor kept coming back to me and saying, what does this mean? What does this mean? I was using industry terms because I figured everybody knew what they meant. It goes back to communication occurring. So the challenge is if you have a set of blueprints, you want a house, you got several ways to do it. You can teach yourself how to read the plans, teach yourself how to lay concrete, teach yourself how to plumb. You can do that. It's going to take you a very, very long time and probably not be what you want at the end, even though it's a set of plans. Same set of plans. You can hire somebody to teach you how to do it, to tell you how to do it every step of the way. A little bit less expensive, still taking a long time. You're still going to make some mistakes, probably not going to be what you want. But you're going to get there. Or you can take that set of plans, hire somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. You have minimal involvement. It costs a little more, but you have minimal involvement. And when you walk into your house, you have exactly what your vision was before you got the plans in the first place. That's the exact same thing, and we often neglect this when it comes to personal development because we have a bad taste in our mouth. How many of y'all liked going to school? How many of y'all liked staying in school if you had a bad teacher? Or you got made fun of, or you got bullied? I finished school because it would have disappointed my mother if I didn't finish school. I was already working, I was already a contractor, I was already making money. I didn't care. But my mom would have been disappointed, so I finished. It was it. It was a social hour for me. That's not true for everybody. I went to college for a while. I did leave college because not only was I bored, I was paying for it, which didn't make sense to me at all at that point. But we get a bad taste in our mouth for education for one way or another, one reason or another. We don't think we need it. We don't think this. We don't think that. Scott and I've had a similar conversation about that in the past. Julie and I've had a conversation about that in the past. Julie's one of my students. Scott's one of my students. We seem to feel that we should be able to figure things out on our own, but we don't look at them literally. And whether you guys elect to do business with me after this or not, with somebody, if you have somebody in your life that's mentoring you, that is coaching you, or you're reaching out to somebody and doing that, and choosing to move forward with that, number one, listen to them, especially if you're not paying them, if they've just chosen to help you. Listen to them. Do what they say, because listening and action are two different things. Knowledge is great. I've read more books than Bathtub Full of Professors, but I didn't start implementing it on until later in life. I just thought reading was going to be the power. I'm like, man, nothing's really happening. I suppose I ought to start doing something about this. So implementing is important, and always tell the truth, because the information that you get, the feedback that you get, the advice that you get is only as valuable as the information that you've given them in the first place. And notice I haven't said anything about accountability. That's a totally different thing. Some people need accountability. Some people just need to be taught what to do. I don't know where you're at. That's why the consultant piece of it often doesn't work, because you're taking different, instead of teaching people where the ultimate mindset is, you're taking everybody and just trying to make them all the same, like they're cookie cutters, and people just aren't that way. So your takeaway from this, I gave you the information at the beginning. It's implementable. It's easy. It seems very simple on the surface. You start running 12 appointments a week, you're going to feel completely out of control if you're not used to doing that. Start running 24, you're going to need some help because you won't be able to do everything in the course of a day that you're doing right now. A lot of stuff that you're spending time doing will start not mattering anymore. It's irrelevant, or somebody else needs to do it. That goes back to time management. Well, if you've never done anything with time management, you've never been that busy where you had to start eliminating things off your schedule because they're just not important enough. You don't know how to make those decisions. That's where you bring people in that can help either teach you to do that or do it for you. And there's a system for deciding what you can outsource, what you can delegate, and what you need to do yourself. So I'm going to encourage each of you. Today, this can be another just seminar that you've talked to, that you came to, that you were taught at. And I didn't say taught to, taught at. And you walk away and do nothing and feel great because you did something to move yourself forward today. Or you can take something you learned here, even just one thing, and go out there and start implementing it. Because I'll tell you right now, that formula I gave you at the beginning, that's actionable today. You can go this afternoon and start setting appointments. You set appointments, you start doing them with purpose, you will start making a difference in your life tomorrow. But if you don't do anything with the knowledge that you've done and you just continue to go from meeting to meeting, from book to book, from training class to training class, you're no further ahead than you were before. When I was corporate, I was working for Efficient Networks, I was required in my position to attend certain meetings. If my boss was in these meetings, I had to be there. If they had nothing to do with my department, it did not matter. I was required corporate. All of our managers are in this meeting. After the first week there, I told him, I said, I am the most informed, least productive employee you have. I don't have time to do anything. The other piece of that was, and I'm going to share this with you because this is kind of still 30 years later, sticks in my craw a little bit. I was managing the Pacific Rim at the time, so a lot of my conference calls and things like that were in the middle of the night because we were in Dallas. But all those meetings happened during the day. At that time, corporate culture was acceptable. You sleep at the office sometimes. There was a point where I had a cot in my cube. So I could take a nap because I wouldn't have time to go home between meetings. That's not the kind of corporate culture you want to ingratiate yourself with. Can I get a show of hands real quick? How many of you guys in here are entrepreneurs, independent? I'm assuming that means the rest of you guys are corporate, not counting retired guys. What does your lifestyle reflect about how hard you work? Is it what you want? I don't have a problem if you're working 60, 80 hours a week. I do consistently because I like it. I love what I do. But when I break and when we go somewhere, I enjoy that as well. Do you have the ability to do that? Do you have the ability to take a step back for a while and enjoy this life you're building for yourself? Or are you constantly on that hamster wheel over and over again? And the second question is, because it's real easy to say, well, yeah, I can take a day or two off. I can take a vacation now and then. Are you living the lifestyle that's in alignment with your vision for why you started your business in the first place? Are you where you want to be when you started your business however many years ago? Sales reps, if you are an outside sales rep, are you hitting your numbers consistently with where you chose to be, not where the company said? And I'll tell you how petty I am when I was in outside sales. When I was selling copiers, I really chafed me that my boss would tell me when to get up, because I was commission, straight commission. But I had to be in the office, so he told me when to get up. They told me how much commission I was going to make, and I was capped at a certain percentage. It was stupid. So they told me where I was going to live. They told me when I had to get out of bed. They told me what school my kids were going to go to. They told me what kind of car my wife was going to drive. I mean, ultimately, that's what happens when we trade our time for money, whether it's commission or not. So if I had to be to the office at 7:30 and I had to get up at 5 to make that happen, I would set my alarm for 4:45, just so I picked when I got up. I didn't do what I was told because I was that frustrated with that. Freedom's always been most important to me. You can exist inside of a corporate environment if you are pursuing your own dreams and your mindset is in alignment with what you're doing. But if what you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or in a corporate environment, is out of alignment with both your underlying governing values and your long-term goals, you're never going to be happy. And while happiness is not the ultimate goal, because there is something to be said for struggle, there has to be a point where you're achieving what you want and not what somebody else wants for you. That's very, very important to keep. And I spend a lot of time. The last seminar I did with the chamber, which is online and recorded, it's called From Dreams to Tasks. It specifically talks about how to take your dreams and convert them into what you need to do tomorrow. So I'm going to encourage each of you to go out there and figure out what you're going to implement and what you're going to do today. You'll have a whole second half of the day. Talk for 45 minutes. Anybody have any questions? Anything that you'd like to ask before we go? Sorry, Rom. Mm-hmm.
All those key. And when you said that, it resonated. Think we all need a CRM system, a database that we use. And I'm guilty of it, as a lot of us are. We put in the information, but what we do with that information, implement. And I had that situation where I got a client, my employer went after them to sell them additional product, upsell, and they didn't pay me. They paid a minimum wage person. Back when I was working at Bank of America, I did a mortgage, and they sent somebody to offer them a HELOC, and they didn't pay me, even though I originated that purchase my mortgage. Yeah, and I called my manager and said, well, that's perfect. So I bought my act CRM, and I've been using it ever since, and I built it throughout the years. So thank you for just sharing that, because it resonated so deeply with me today.
Oh, I appreciate that. And then let me fill you guys in. If you weren't at the talk yesterday, it was at a networking event, and it was specifically for the 3 most powerful things you have in your life. And the number one thing, the most powerful thing that you own is your contact list. You need to own and take possession of your contact list. I do not mean go on your employer's database and do things that are illegal and download their contact list so you can keep it for yourself. But if you made the contact, you need to have a separate log of it somewhere, whether it's in Google Contacts, whether it's in your own CRM, and it needs to have detailed notes associated with it, just as detailed as you give your employer. If you generated those leads, those are your leads. That's the most valuable thing you own, bar none. Because if you get let go, Ram, your situation is unfortunate. Unfortunately, in a corporate environment, that's what happens. You can't do anything about that. But when you leave, you still know these people, because they weren't doing business with Bank of America. They were doing business with Ram. So when Ram calls them, hey, I'm no longer with Bank of America, but I still want to do business with you. It goes back to what I was talking about. Done business with people across multiple companies. The most important thing and valuable thing that you own is your database. The second thing is, I've already touched base on this, is the ability to generate your own leads. If you can generate cold leads, you will never go hungry. And here's the thing, if you generate your own leads, it takes a hell of a lot of work, so you want to keep them in your own database. You want to make sure you hang on to those leads, because you never know where they're going to come from, and you don't know when it's going to be valuable in the future. You may change industries. Average person changes, not careers, not jobs, careers 7 times over the course of their lifetime. If you can take that same group of people and do business with the same people, it's much, much easier. So, and then the third thing is be a person of confidence, aggressiveness, and integrity. And I don't mean aggressive, like come in and try and push. I need you to sign here and do this and do that. I mean, be persistent. Come across, Grant Cardone talks about when he walks into a meeting, he walks in like he owns the building and he walks out like he sold the building. Have that level of confidence whenever you walk into a room. That's easy to do when you're walking into a room of people who perform at your level or not quite. You start putting yourself in rooms with people you want to do business with, and it gets uncomfortable real fast. It gets hard to walk in with that level of posture. And I'm speaking from experience here, because when I decided, okay, I've got as big as I can, I need to start, seeking out people that are doing better than me, that are living the life that I want to live, and seeking out people that I really want to do business with on a top level. I went from talking to people that were 500, 600, 700,000 millionaires to people that were 9 figures, 10 figures. It's intimidating as anything to maintain that integrity. But if you already have that mindset of your the best at what you do. Nobody else can uniquely bring the value that you do. And the last thing I talk about in the networking events is always lead with value. Don't go in there with what you can get in mind. Get in there with what you can give. How can I be of value to you? How can I be of value to you? That's why the notes in your database are so important. I use the example of at Finally Friday, there was a lady that sold purses made out of jeans. And I used her as an example during my talk at Finally Friday because she was so far removed from anything that I do. There was just no way, there was no crossover. But I was like, how can I add value to her? I looked at it as a challenge. So I reached out to her outside of there and I said, look, if you've got social media, I'll put it out into my groups. I've got across all platforms around 10,000 followers at the time. I said, somebody will buy some stuff. Well, I don't have social media. I don't do this. I don't do that. Okay, no problem. I understand. I thought that was it. The next week at the meeting, she stands up crying. I just want to tell everybody that Flint reached out to me, tried to help me build my business. It didn't work, but through no fault of his own. But that's how much this guy cares. Julie's now my client from that meeting. From somebody that seemingly had nothing. I just tried to find a way to add value to them. So if you go into, and it doesn't matter what level of operators are in the room, if you're there to add value and not take, you will be accepted because you'll be accepted as an expert in what you do. Now, it's even more important that you operate with integrity, that you always tell the truth, because people know. The other thing is that we're intimidated whenever we walk into a large crowd of people, especially people that we want to do business with. So there's certain techniques and ways that you can get over that too. I went over some of those yesterday. I can go over some more of those if you guys have questions. But at this point, anybody else got any more questions? That was a great question, Ron. Thank you.
1284. I was getting the clock.
Okay. That's a great question. 12 appointments, minimum. And if y'all always shop at the Dollar Tree, you want to hit 12. If you want to go and shop at Neiman Marcus or Macy's, then you need to be closer to 20. 8 is the minimum number of those appointments that need to be with new people. And every single one of these appointments is a conversation with purpose, meaning you both know why you're there and it's pre-arranged ahead of time. Doesn't have to be in person. I used to say in-person appointments. I still believe in-person appointments are just as powerful, but I can get through a heck of a lot more appointments via Zoom than I can driving around. Also, as I've begun working with more and more high performers, they prefer the Zoom meetings once they've established your credibility because it's faster. But they will establish credibility with you first. So 8 new people, new prospects you've never done business with. The remaining 4 appointments are follow-up of some sort. They're either a closing appointment, they're designed to move the needle forward. And here's a piece that I didn't talk about at the beginning. Never leave the first appointment without a specific dedicated action on both sides for the second appointment. That does not necessarily mean scheduled. That means you're gathering information for me. You're doing this, you're doing that. Always have a plan of action and a point to follow up. Because otherwise, those 12 appointments, maybe 3 of them are going to come to fruition. If you have some sort of follow-up, maybe 8 of them will come to fruition after that. These numbers they work across the board. So did that clarify it? Anybody else? Yes, sir. Purpose. If you walk into a room with confidence, integrity, and purpose, you'll be the most attractive person in that room because the energy you are throwing off will pull people to you. There's a few people at the networking events that I attend regularly that you can tell that show up with confidence, purpose, because they always have a line of people waiting to talk to them. So I routinely get, even though I don't always leave early, I routinely get, I couldn't even get over there to talk to you. You left early as soon as the bell rang. Well, I didn't. I just had 12 people standing around me talking to me at the event before I left. So I refer to that combination of traits as posture. You walk in, you have good posture where you think people are standing up. Well, there's a mental posture as well as a physical posture. So I don't lead with posture. I usually break it down. But if you hear me refer to posture when I'm talking, that's what I'm talking about. That applies in sales meetings too. You have to have the confidence to know that you're the best at what you do, period. If you don't have that confidence, you need to go practice, figure out a way to get it real quick, because you're not going to make much money. Anybody else? No?
All right, I got something.
Okay.
How about when, like, other people tell you that you're this way? You're confident, you're outgoing and all these things, but you don't necessarily see it. You just believe them, and then you just go with it.
I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I think I'm just gonna go with
Okay. Well, what?
it. I guess
How do people describe you?
I'm outgoing, friendly.
Mhm.
I guess I'm kind of confident, but not always confident, not cocky. Try not to be cocky.
I didn't. That word never came out of my mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something I think I'm working on, being more confident and less cocky.
So how do you see yourself?
Kind of that same way,
So kind of the same way, but you think confidence comes across as cocky?
Like
Okay.
you said, if you're trying to do business with these people,
Mhm.
then it's kind of hard to see yourself as that way. But you do business with these people, this echelon, then you can see yourself as that way very easily.
Yeah. Let me give you some advice then and answer your question. First of all, remember this: how you do anything is how you do everything. It doesn't matter if you're in a circle of toddlers and kindergarten teachers, or you're in a room full of billionaires. You need to act the same across the board.
I mean,
Because
you can act the same, but you don't feel the same. The mind.
Act how you are. Act how you are. The other thing is if you want to build your confidence and practice, go to, what's your business?
Real estate.
Real estate. That's a huge. Are you an agent? Okay. I was like that's a broad stroke. Okay. And anybody that's heard me talk before knows what I'm about to say. So you're a real estate agent. Do you feel confident in being a real estate agent, or that's the part that you have trouble? You don't see yourself the same way other people see you.
No, I'm a great real estate agent.
Okay. So which part are you struggling with, I guess?
The communication one-on-one, like I feel like to do good business, you should develop a relationship with the people. You're not always pushing. I don't always be pushing real estate on people because I want to know this person on a more personal level so I can know, I'm sending a card if your dog dies.
I got you. What do you love about being a real estate agent?
The personal part of it.
Okay.
The relationship building aspect of it.
Why did you become a real estate agent?
Money.
Okay. Is that it? I mean, do you enjoy the sales process?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Can you tell me about the deal you're the most proud of that you've done so far?
When I can help an elderly person sell their home
Mhm.
and then get in a new home that they love and they don't have a mortgage anymore.
That's awesome.
my favorite.
Oh, I love that.
It's like, wait.
Have you already done that? How many times? Twice. So do you use that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have used that in talking to other older people and say, hey, let me tell you what I was able to do for them. And you can call them and ask them and, if you need to. But let me tell
Do you see how your demeanor just changed?
It went to salesy, didn't it?
No.
Oh.
It went to confidence
Oh, okay.
because you're talking about what you love.
Yeah.
Also, your information goes in my database with notes that say, became a real estate agent for the money, enjoys sales, loves helping people improve their lives, has done 2 deals to date, put the date, where she got people into a house that they no longer have a mortgage on. Those details will go in my database. I call you back. Man, how many more people have you helped get free from their mortgage payment? The last time we talked, it was 2. Is it 5 yet?
Right.
Instant relationship. Done. Put that in your head next time you go talk to somebody. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you get free from your mortgage payment. Whatever it is. Use that confidence. Yes.
For me, because I've been working with you, I think one of the biggest things that when we first started was sometimes you can have that confidence, but then the person you're talking to, you feel like they could care less. So then you kind of lose that confidence. But your cookie analogy is exactly it.
Okay.
I'm offering you the best. If you don't want it, I'll go to the next one.
Does everybody know what she's talking about with my cookie analogy? Yeah, when you walk into the room, you're the one giving the cookie away. If you keep that top of mind, you don't care if people don't want your cookie. So what? Not everybody. Also, if you're talking to somebody and they're not listening, they're ignoring you, they're looking at their phone, shut up. Don't talk to them anymore. They don't deserve your time. I want to do business with people that want to do business with me. If you're not going to talk to me, or you're going to ignore me, or you're just going to be plain rude, Shut up. And if you got really, really snarky, you can just throw random words in there. Occasionally you'll hear me, if somebody's not paying attention to me, I'll say purple monkey dishwasher right in the middle of a sentence. 99% of the time, they don't even notice because they're not really paying attention in the first place. Don't be afraid to shut up and stare at them, especially if you're in a position where you have to speak to them. Because if they're not paying attention, they're going to get uncomfortable real quick. Well, what were you saying? Well, you weren't listening, so I stopped. Have the confidence to know that your worth. That's it. Just have the confidence to know your worth. Any other questions? Yes, sir. I'll get to you in a second. Mm-hmm. If you use it, it's great. I write stuff on the bathroom mirror because I know that I'm going to stare at that bathroom mirror at least twice. And if I'm home all day, it's probably 4 or 5 times, but that's beside the point. I'll share this with you. And I usually will write something that reminds me. I'm huge, to answer your question about vision board, I'm huge on dreaming. I'm huge on dreams. If you need to go, if your dream is a car or a truck, and you need to go sit in there so you can smell what it smells like and drive it and feel it and get it in your blood to get that excited about it, then go do that, even if you can't afford it. Because that will put it top of mind. I've been doing this my entire life. She'll tell you, some of this stuff is crazy. We bought our first house because I wanted a red Miata. And that's not a joke. So the vision board's important if you use it. I didn't use a vision board because I never looked at it. I hung it behind my desk and never looked at it. I tried it once. But the mirror, and here's how diabolical the mirror is. You can take a goal that you, like I wrote something up there 9 months ago, the middle of last year, before the HELOC market crashed with single family residential. Was running a $3 million plus business at the time and overnight lost it. But the goal was there to keep growing that particular business in that market. I erased it. No, that business doesn't exist anymore. It really doesn't. I have one of those clients left out of 10. Guess what shows up every time I take a freaking shower? Every time. But here's the thing. We're almost back there in a completely different direction because I look at it every single day. So you go, what a vision board does is it takes and it puts the top of your conscious mind what you want, which eventually your subconscious mind starts to believe. And when your subconscious mind starts to believe, it's called the reticular activation system. You can look that up. But I'll use the red Miata as an example. Bought a red Miata, saw red Miatas everywhere. Didn't see them anywhere beforehand because now I'm looking for them. When your subconscious mind starts to do it, you start to identify opportunities and ways to make what you're dreaming about and what your vision is happen. But the thing is, you have to believe what you put on that board. It can scare you, but you have to believe it. Yes?
I just pictured him with the red Miata.
So on my YouTube, my son's crawling in the door so you can see the red Miata. It's been long since gone, a lot of years, but 7 kids are hard to fit in a 2-seat car, just for the record.
When you're working with your clients, do you help them increase their own self-awareness and level of emotional intelligence as a part of that connectivity?
Explain to me what that means to you.
So if you're unaware of when you walk in a room, your presence comes off closed off, guarded, when you talk to someone who's not as distracted or genuine, but you don't realize that. But as you're speaking to them and you're talking to them, you're studying them. 90% of what we communicate is nonverbal. So you can see that. And so you bring it to their attention when you see such body language or tones or, that would be off-putting to a new client or a new business prospect. And then also the importance of emotional intelligence in, like, what level are you at in the sense of being able to understand a person on an emotional level. Their intellect may be way up there, but emotionally you could be communicating with an 18-year-old. So that's an important aspect to know, like when you have high emotional intelligence, you're able to know that person and where they're at, because it's not just their abilities or their intellect or their skills, but also their emotional intelligence. because in communicating, you're communicating to their emotional intelligence. And if they're stuck at a younger, or they could be an old soul, they're, some teenagers I work with, it's like I'm speaking to a 30-year-old. For some adult 30-year-olds, it's like I'm speaking to an 18-year-old. And so the emotional intelligence component is important, not just for yourself and your own self-awareness, but also when you work with others with forming that connection and knowing who you're working with.
If my answer hurts your feelings, you still want me to give it to you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yes. I'm not going to hurt your feelings with my answer, but that's how I approach when I have an emotional intelligence issue, or I have an issue where somebody is coming across as less than what they are, genuine.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge we run into, and you had a lot of information in there, and I too we have one of those 30-year-old, 19-year-olds. So I understand in working with those, you had a lot of information there. It's obviously a topic that concerns you greatly. Is this something that you've struggled with, or is this something you've struggled with in communicating with other people?
More along the lines of communicating with other people, not in a sense of there's such a disconnect out there since COVID. What I've noticed in my field is we were isolated, and that the connectivity with others decreased, right? And then everything went online, and now everything is Zoom online, and everything's less personal. There is less personal connection. And so I do see people in person, and I do see people online, telemedicine. There is a different, it is harder to reach someone through the telemedicine than in person.
So what is your field, if you don't mind my asking?
So I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist, and I'm also a therapeutic coach for specific.
That explains the level of detail in your question. Thank you. My belief about, and I do help, if I'm coaching you, I will help you with emotional intelligence. I'll help you with communication, not specifically because I'm trained in emotional intelligence. I'm trained through life and through sales at how to communicate effectively with people. I think the biggest challenge with that, with people walking in and not realizing that they're coming across differently than they're intending, and I personally struggle with this too, because I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but I can come across as a little over the top and intimidating sometimes. I've been told that. Most people won't tell you the truth. If you're coming across as rude, they'll walk away. They will do anything to avoid the conflict rather than tell you the truth. Whereas if they would just tell you the truth, you would probably change it fairly quickly, because you don't want to be perceived as whatever they think you are or whatever you're coming across as. This happened to me this morning, and this happens all the time. Somebody told me, it happened when Catherine was in here too. So one of my new subcontractors in my other company called me Clint. Not a big deal. Doesn't offend me. You still 20 plus years, you still call me Clint, but not a big deal. But the thing is we won't even correct people that call us the wrong name for fear of conflict. We're so scared of hurting somebody else's feelings or having that conflict that we won't even do something as simple as that. And when we do, I just sent him a message back. I said, yeah, everything's taken care of. By the way, my name is Flint. Oh my God, I had you stored in my phone wrong. I'm going to change it. I apologize. Instantly off the hook, behavior altered, and apologies. Real communication occurred because I was willing to tell the truth. Now, in a coaching perspective, in a leadership perspective, you need to, if you're a coach or you're a team leader, you've got to be willing to tell your people the truth. You've got to be willing to hurt their feelings sometimes. It's never okay to intentionally hurt somebody's feelings, but sometimes the truth is going to hurt people's feelings. You don't want to do that on purpose. I don't want to go around being a jerk. But if you're coming across as an ass and you're not, you probably really want somebody to tell you.
Well, I ask him, I say, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you what you need to hear? And then
what if they take the first option? Do you tell them what they want to hear? Do you lie to them?
they take the first option?
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? Yeah. Tell me what I want to hear. Okay. Because we don't want to lie to anybody. We don't want to establish that.
It's not authentic. And in order for change to happen, you've got to be raw and you have to be real and you have to embrace authenticity. Without that, you're not going to make a change, and therefore you're wasting your time and mine. And I'm not your person.
That's true. And your field fascinates me, by the way. Cognitive behavior I study a lot about that. And if you notice, career, family, mental health, and fitness, life, body, business, and mind is what I've mentored people that are entrepreneurs for years. I've mentored young kids. I've raised 7. And what I found is I had very successful entrepreneurs, but when I started mentoring them on their business, their personal life was a mess. Or they were working so hard they didn't have time for any kind of a life. Or they were fat and out of shape and looked down on themselves, so their business wasn't growing like they wanted it to grow because they didn't have the mental fortitude to take care of themselves, and they didn't have the mental real estate available because they were so busy being obsessed about being overweight that they didn't grow their business. So I went from being a business consultant to working directly with leaders in businesses on every aspect of their life. Anybody that comes to work with me as a client, especially a one-on-one client, there is a detailed intake process for that to happen. And I do not work with everybody because I don't believe everybody's ready to face their demons, for lack of a better term. They're not ready to admit where they're wrong, and they don't want to hear the truth when it's spoken to them. And that goes back to what I told you guys about always tell the truth. You don't lie to your attorney, you don't lie to your doctor, you don't lie to your coach. These people are paid to be on your side. So that was a good question. Thank you. But yes, emotional intelligence is important. Perception is important. Anybody else? Next. I know I saw a couple other hands over there. Did we scare you? I promise I'm not being mean on purpose. I don't think I hurt her feelings, but she did give me permission.
Yeah, it would take a lot more.
I use that as an example to how I approach that. I tell people, and if the aggressive is worse, if somebody's being a real jerk, and I don't always pick up on that. I lead with being a nice guy. I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't always pick up on if somebody's being a jerk. But if I pick up on it, I'll push back usually in a fairly linguistic manner to make sure that they understand that I know they're being a jerk and they're doing it on purpose, especially if they're ignoring me. I teach this specifically, power networking. There's a QR code over here, and I do have a link for those of you that don't like QR codes. Picking on Scott again. The book is usually $33. It's $11 for anybody that came to this event. This teaches the exact strategy that I use to network. And I did not set out to be a great networker. I was just a lazy cold caller. So, but anybody that's ever seen myself and Des at networking events and seen us work, it's exactly the same, and it works like clockwork. Always. I never leave a networking event that I don't pull 4 or 5 significantly good leads out of and already have commitments to set up appointments. That example I used with Scott is word for word exactly what I do. So if you want to get a copy of that book, it's an ebook. I did not publish it hardback, paperback, or whatever, but it's something you can read in less than an hour and walk into a networking event immediately. My big deal with anything that I teach is I don't want there to be a learning curve. You might have to practice, but it can be implemented immediately. And from a networking perspective, who loves networking? Liars. I like talking to people, but I don't like networking events because I'd rather go do something fun. The thing is that if you're networking, you want to spend your time as effectively as possible when you're in the field. You need to be pulling leads out of there. Who was intimidated by networking when you started? When Julie and I started working together, she was scared. And you'd been networking for a long time. You'd built a pretty successful business being afraid, so there's something to be said for that. Here's the thing. If you're going into a new territory, if you're putting yourself in different rooms with more successful people to network with them, and you're scared, find a group of those people in an industry that doesn't matter to you and go practice. Because if you screw up every lead, so what? They weren't great leads anyway. Doesn't matter. The thing is, what you'll find is you'll pull people out of those type of environments. And the example that I usually use is if you're scared to network as a real estate agent, go to an IT networking meeting. Oh, God, they're the most boring meetings on the planet. They're really not, but I'm not in IT, so most of what they're talking about, I don't have any clue what's going on. But you can meet people, you can practice your approach. If you screw it up, so what? You got no problem looking at those folks and going, I'm here for the practice.
Yeah.
I'm here. It is. It really is. And it's once you start talking to people, it's easier to talk to people from there. So that's that. Let's say 11:24. Any other questions? We good? We can end early so everybody can have a few minutes to talk, to introduce yourselves to each other, to meet somebody that you heard that you thought might be interesting. I talked about the book here. If you are interested in, if you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in coaching and leadership and mentorship, and you want access to what I teach on a corporate level, but for an entrepreneurial cost, scan that QR code or get my link tree, because I do teach this in a group setting. I've made it as affordable as possible. We do once a week and we follow up. If you don't want to do that, I provide free content all the time. Now, granted, remember, information is free, so I give a lot of information away for free. You want to learn how to implement it, then you'll end up in one of my classes. If you are an entrepreneur who is operating at 6 figures plus and can't seem to grow, I have the $750,000 mastermind designed to teach you how to scale to 7 figures. Well, why is it called 750K? Because if you've never made $1 million before, you can't wrap your head around that. That number seems insurmountable. The 750 you can believe if you've done 150. Well, okay, I could probably do 750. The thing is, the skill set to get you to 750 is the same that'll get you to $1 million. There's the reason for that. And then if you have a team, if you are a leader of a sales organization, I do not have my sales organization. I'm not sales organization. I don't have my sales training published online anywhere yet. This is not a new program, but it's something I've only done privately. Reach out to me directly. Let's have a discussion about coming in and working with your team on that mindset and on developing into a cohesive body of people instead of a bunch of sales reps running their own direction. Thank you guys for coming today. I appreciate it. I know your time is valuable, and you guys choosing to spend a couple hours with me means everything to me. I really appreciate that very much, and I hope you take something home with you.